with you today. It can be about spiritualism. It can be about spirituality. It's the nice thing with spiritualism because it encompasses everything, just like spirituality. So I draw this from Todd Murphy's article, The Role of Religious and Mystical Experiences in Human Evolution, a corollary hypothesis for neurotheology. And this is in the magazine or the journal called Neuroquantology. Big words there. Woo! So he tells us that our brain is pre-wired for mystical experiences. Can you dig it? Pre-wired. We're all set. We're predisposed for it. However, here's the catch. However, only certain people of the population experience the required triggers for them to initiate their mystical experience. So only a small portion of the population can do this. However, this does not preclude the ability of individuals to pursue such triggers on their own. And they are able to weigh their value, which confirms the underlying pathways. And by their value, whether it's worthwhile, and the underlying pathways, how they get there. So if you're wondering what triggers might aid your mystical experience, which we're going to explore later, meditation is one. It's a good one. You know, you're sitting there, depending on how you choose to meditate, you're either focusing or resting your gaze on an object of beauty and truth, as they say, or you're staring at a blank wall, or as Reverend Miller would have us do, gaze at a clear glass of water. And while you are gazing at that, images may appear before your eyes, or in your mind, however you want to do that. Now, how they did it, how humankind stumbled upon this, is imagine yourself standing outside a cave in the middle of the night, holding whatever weapon you might happen to have, staring off into the blackness of your surroundings. Or, this is one Reverend Vardaman liked to do, you're gazing into the fire that's burning in front of you as you keep warm, or as it illuminates what's around you. And as you're gazing into it, the flickering of the flames begin to mesmerize you. Another trigger. So we kind of stumbled into this. And man, what a trip it has been. Any comments or thoughts anybody would like to share?
I wonder what other triggers are.
Well, other triggers are natural organic plants, mushrooms, cannabis. Of course, the nice thing about cannabis now is you can just get the concentrated form in a little bitty gummy, and an hour later you're.
I was just wondering, because like the first one that I had that I guess I was really conscious of was when I was getting baptized. So I wasn't meditating, I was being dunked. And when I came out of the water, I think the Holy Spirit under me, because I was so elated.
Oh. Fantastic.
I was just filled with joy.
Probably happened to you, yeah.
Oh. My mother said I lit up the whole sanctuary.
Oh. Well, she said.
So I don't know what that trigger was.
Well, there are a lot of triggers. There are events, and we'll talk about some of this later. But there are events. I mean, you can be driving along and all of a sudden you feel this sensation of elation, as you put it, and everything just looks brighter and clearer to you. This happened to me one time when I was driving home. I was working in Buchanan and living in Benton Harbor, and I took a different route home because I got, it was just red bud all the way down to what's now called M139, which used to be 131, and then or 31. I get it confused. Get them confused. It's called the bypass now. So anyway, I go down Snow Road, I go up and I make a right on Gar Road, and it just comes down and around, and then it comes up, and there's all these, it's an orchard on both sides of the road. Oh, it felt fantastic.
I love that feeling.
It's part of it is the environmental conditions. Other parts of it has to do with your emotional state. Mostly your emotional state.
I think a lot has to do with a lot of people in a room, because their energies combine and you're there with a bunch of people.
It can be. That's why with circles, it's the like minds coming together. It creates a resonance, can trigger that. It's happened to me once or twice, maybe once. But there are triggers that allow us to have these experiences. And the problem is that we have all these expectations. And we're going to talk more about that as we get into our lesson. But for now, I want to thank you for allowing me to share this with you. Well, our lesson today is going to be a circle. And I had published our video from the previous circle, and a comment had come up because I invite them to join us as we go through the exercise. And the response was, I didn't experience anything. One of the things that we have to keep in mind is when we watch these YouTube videos and when we read these books about channeling, trance, and all this other stuff, we have to keep in mind that we're only going to see those times where they had successes, so to speak. We're not going to see those times where it utterly failed completely. Because I'll tell you, the first time I sat in a circle for this, well, actually, I think it was a message circle. Right. A lot of people don't know the difference between a circle and message circle. Message circle is where you give each other messages. So anyway, I'm sitting in this circle, and I'm sitting there and quieting the mind and everything. And everybody starts, can I come to you? Here's a message for you. Everybody starts doing that. And I'm sitting there with my eyes closed and a blank. That's all I get is a blank. So when you sit in a circle for the first time, if nothing happens, that's okay. It's not a bad thing. It's like any other skill we develop. We have to practice it. When I first started to meditate, the whole idea they tell you is to quiet the mind. Okay, so I'm sitting there and I've got all this chatter and everything going through the mind. It took me weeks to figure out how to meditate, to have a meditation where I felt relaxed.
That happened with me too. Because they've been waiting for you to come to them for so long, they just all have something to say.
Yeah, when the door flings open, and let me tell you, when that door flings open and you're ready, they just come at you. Not ganging up on you or anything like that, but they're ready for you. So I want to share a little something with you from Diana Santo from her article, Fluid Divination. movement, chaos, and the generation of noise in Afro-Cuban spiritus, oracular production. And that's what they call us. They call us spiritists.
Say that all again.
That's just the title of the article.
Oh.
This is the important part of it. Yeah, you know, when you write for a journal, you have these titles that give you, they're actually part of the abstract, I think.
I think she's talking about voodoo.
No, it's
Cuban
not.
something.
No.
Talking about the islands and,
Sangres, no, not talking about the voodoo. That's altogether different topic.
okay.
It's altogether different topic. But that's what they call spiritualism in Cuba. Because she writes that part of the mediumistic ritual may be invocation, singing, or calling as a means of building resonance. Now, we talked earlier about triggers for these mystical experiences. And here's another brief list. Singing, which is something that I read in the writings of spiritualists. In fact, that was some of the souls suggested that.
They sing,
Sing.
they sing,
Who sings?
they sing. Well,
We all sing.
Well, they're
Who's
trying-
singing Troy's crew?
Okay. You
Who's
read-
on first?
Like instead of playing music, you sing yourself
Yes.
into a meditation.
Well, they call that mantras.
Singing raises the resonance. Singing
Yes, that's what they say. Because it
raises
gets
the
you,
vibration.
the idea is to get you emotionally involved. And meditation uses that too. When you do that, you feel that resonance moving throughout your body and everything, it moves outwards as well. And calling is actually similar to invocation, which is what we did last time when I chanted, so to speak, what is the purpose of soul communication? It helps bring us together. But when you're doing this alone, it can be a little difficult. But still, it's something that just doesn't happen right away. When I started to learn how to use a black mirror, it was 2 weeks before I had any kind of experience. And I was focusing on this mirror every night. Every night I was focusing on it. And it took me 2 weeks just to see mist over top of it. Just to see mist. So this is not something that's just going to, boom, happen, despite what you might see on TV, or despite what people will tell you. They're not going to tell you their screw-ups. Nobody talks about their screw-ups except for people like me. So you're never going to hear about that. You're always going to hear about, oh, this fantastic experience. You're always going to hear about the successes. But successes don't always happen, even with seasoned mediums doing this. Successes don't always happen. So, I want all of you to get comfortable. If you have any writing material, if you have a pencil or a pen and some paper, I don't want you to grip the pencil or the pen. If you have it, that's great. If you don't worry. You don't have to if you don't want to, but if you choose to, lightly hold the pen or the pencil. Lightly hold. Don't grip it like you're going to write a note or anything like that. Don't do that. Just lightly hold it. And as we are going through this experience, if you should happen to feel any pressure on your hand, allow it to move of its own accord. Don't open your eyes, because once you open your eyes, you've broken the spell. You don't want to do that. And if you should happen to hear something, you can say it aloud or you can write. but don't open your eyes. Your hand knows how to write, and it will write. It may not write in a straight line. The letters may be all over the place, but it will write. So just allow your hand to do its job. If you should see something, allow your hand to write it, and it will. It will. What I want you to focus on, this is the question I want all of you to focus on. What are the other worlds like? Allow it to move through you. What are the other worlds like? And you hear my voice, and only my voice for now. What are the other worlds like? And if you should happen to hear another voice, it will sound different from mine. It will sound different from yours. That is the soul speaking with you. What are other worlds like? What are the 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 other worlds like? They're very similar to those worlds which you walk in. That you walk in physically, that you walk in through the mind. Your dreams take you to these other worlds. But you are most likely more interested in what happens when you leave this one. The world that you might enter is one of your own making, just like your dreams are of your own making. For those of you here, the world you create is based on your deeds. Not as this one would say, your knowledge and understanding, but your deeds, how you treat others, how you treat yourself. Is much simpler than many of these humans make it out to be. It need not be so complicated. But since you are given to complications, it will be complicated. Those who choose to take advantage of others shall enter the dark worlds, as it is written that this one is read. I believe it is called by many hell. And yes, you create your own hell. You create your own hell here. You create your own hell when you move from this realm to ours. You create it. It is a thing of your imagination, but isn't everything a creation of your imagination? But they are not bound to these places, just as you are not bound to any place that you might go or that you might experience. You have but to, as this child put it, you have but to look up. And as you look up, you see that glimmering light. And it is that glimmering light that guides you. It's not about going into the light, but allowing the light to guide you.
you still must have the experiences that are required. And it is these experiences that move you from one realm to the other. Already, many of you have moved from the lower realms to higher realms. These realms do not just exist in the soul world, as this one puts it. These realms exist throughout your life. You know when you are entering a dark realm. Your emotions tell you, and your intellect discern these things. This is your opportunity. Awareness is what causes you to move forward, to evolve. Listen to your emotions. Discern them. They are your guide. And remember what a guide does. A guide shows you the way, as this one puts it. They are signposts. This one has good understanding. But there is more to teach. There is always more to teach. The most basic of teachings is to be kind. Be kind. Kindness is your salvation. Not knowledge. Kindness. And we will close this session here as this one becomes anxious. What are the other worlds like? What are the other worlds like? Whatever comes to mind, allow your hand to write. Your hand knows what to do. Do not open your eyes because it will break the spell. Now it's time for you to return. Move your fingers about. Move your toes about. Write down your experience, what you may have heard, what you may have seen. Write it all down. If you feel the need, stand up and stretch. Or in my case, walk around. Now, if you didn't receive anything, don't worry about it. It's par for the course. I don't always receive. There have been times when I've been doing readings, drawable, so don't worry about it. And while you are writing down your notes and everything, I want to share a little something with you from Michael Tim. This comes from an article entitled Filtering Out the Bosch. And this was in the Journal for Spiritual and Consciousness Studies. And he writes, chemist Professor Robert Hare, who was one of the main people who helped move spiritualism forward, inquired of his departed father about the difficulties of communication. He was told the souls had to use metaphors in order to utilize the language, that of souls, meaning the language of the souls,
was more rich and could convey more ideas in a single word than we could in 100. So that is the purpose for these symbols that you may experience during your meditations, during your messages, during the circle. It's the same with what you might hear, these cliches. These cliches are like paintings with words. A cliche can have 1,000 definitions to it, 1,000 meanings, but whichever meaning resonates with you is the one that it is about. So I'm not going to ask what you wrote down unless you want to share it, but I am going to ask what your experience might have been. And we'll begin with Cindy, if that's okay.
I just mostly lately, when I meditate, I feel like a weightlessness in myself lifting. But then lately, I've been watching myself leave from the ground. I watch myself like I can watch myself leave. I just I'm back on the ground and I'm watching myself rise.
Could indicate accomplishments.
Um,
So, Sandy, would you like to share your experience?
Sure. It was very peaceful. I don't know why, but when we do this, I just seem to words like individual words just come into my mind. And the first word was beauty. And the second word was study. And the third word was love. And that was in the earlier part of this. And then toward the end, I was impressed with the word teaching and learning. And then I heard guidance. And then I heard reunion. So that was my words. But it was very nice. It was very peaceful. Mhm.
Good. Ponder your words.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is it cold in here?
No, I feel
Because
fine.
I'm freezing.
Well, that's
And
because
I
you
know
handled, my friend.
because I know my brain, when it does its thing, I can feel hot and cold at the same time.
Mm.
Spirits are around you.
So, they could put a coat on me. So, Beth, would you like to share your experience?
Sure. When it was just you, first thing that came to my mind was aqueous. What are the other worlds like? Aqueous, underwater. I think that's because I've always wanted to be a dolphin.
Okay,
Always wanted to study ocean or marine biology. But
okay.
anyway, then I start when the guide, then what went through my head is these other worlds are what are in my imagination. And then your guide stepped in, and what did he say? He said, they're in your imagination. You've already been there. They're in your dreams. You've visited them in your dreams. Okay. I'm listening this time. I'm not listening to my guides. I'm listening to the channel stuff.
Oh.
So I just made notes on some of the words the guide said, like the worlds in the next realm are based on our deeds, what we do here on this earth. Those who do nasty things to other people, they're gonna experience what we call hell.
Okay,
And I really liked when the guide said, you know, these other realms are not as complicated as we humans make them, because we like to make things complicated. And it's like, well, that's so very true. It's our other worlds are based on how you treat others. Then he said something about when you look up in the sky and you see the light, let the light guide you, don't let it take you or something, envelop you, don't go into the light, let it guide you. I think, oh, that's interesting, I write that down. And then I saw the high priestess card. I see her, I see that card a lot, that image a lot. I think the last thing I wrote down was, kindness is our salvation. Before you came back repeating, what are the other roles like? What are the other roles like?
Okay. All right. Connie, would you like to share your experience?
I was just enjoying myself.
That sounds like you.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So, you said I channeled. Did anybody else hear me?
I did.
You did? Okay. What did I?
Sandy's nodding, yes.
Oh, Sandy did too? Okay. So anybody want to share?
It was very clear. Very clear when you stopped and he started. Very clear.
It was working fast too.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm,
He stepped out, he stepped in.
mm-hmm.
Well, I'm uncomfortable with that.
Well, he said toward the end that he was gonna end this lesson or session because this one is getting anxious.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Wasn't that cute?
Yeah.
It's hard not to giggle. It's like, don't giggle, to break the spell.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not comfortable with this, but I'm willing to do this for your benefit.
That might happen more and more to you.
Yeah, I felt the sensation was, you know how I tell you that if you feel that tingling sensation at the crown, it's the divine energy moving through you. Well, that's what it felt like, except I could feel it moving from the crown, moving down behind me, down my body.
Like your chakras were opening.
I wouldn't necessarily say that.
Like someone was stepping up behind you.
More like that. More like that. But I have to congratulate this one because in earlier times when this has happened, it's like boom, they're there. And this time it was a gradual sensation. So obviously this one knows what they're doing. So did I say anything worthwhile?
Well, yeah, I read some of the stuff that the guide was saying through you.
Oh, okay. Well, do you want to share some of what I said, Sandy? Do you remember?
I just bits, I mean, I remember, I don't always recall exactly how it was, but that
It's okay.
that there are hell, we can create hell in our actions, and it's self-imposed. And that kindness was so important. I don't remember exactly how you said it, but that it was such an important aspect of your journey and your growth. Trying to remember what else you said now. It was really interesting, and I was actually kind of surprised. I don't know why, but you touched upon things that I don't think we've ever touched on, at least since I've been coming. So I thought that was really interesting. And the thought crossed my mind, oh my gosh, we've got to get this transcribed as soon as possible. Because it's something that is going to have to be read a few times to really absorb because there was so much in a short time. That and I wasn't writing down what you said. So, I'm looking forward to it being transcribed so I can listen again and glean more from it. But it was really nice. It was really, really nice. And I'm sorry that it's sometimes difficult for you. And it's really nice of you to be willing to do it. Because I think there's really a lot of good that's being said. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your sacrifice to do that. It was really nice.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And did anyone else have anything you'd like to share? Something I may have said or something they experienced?
We're talking about let your emotions be your guide and when you walk into a situation. And, and your feelings are telling you the truth. And not to go into certain situations.
That makes sense. Your emotions, people write them off. Don't be so emotional, but they tell you a story. And the idea is not to get emotional, because if you get emotional, then the emotion takes over. And it's like when I talked about the blessed is the one who consumes the deity and becomes the deity. And cursed is the one who is consumed by the deity, and the deity becomes human. When your emotions take over, they consume you.
I keep hearing, don't get emotional about anything,
Yeah,
because the enemy has a way in when you use your emotions.
exactly. Exactly. But don't dismiss them either, because they can tell you a story. Oh, I feel icky. Well, there's a reason you feel icky. Right now, I feel chilled. And that could be the sensation of an empty space slowly filling in, or it could be something else. I don't know. But I'm sure if I took the time to meditate on it, it would tell me a story. So yes, your emotions are important. They tell you a story, they guide you. And does anybody have any last thoughts? Beth?
I just enjoy this.
Pardon?
You can get overwhelmed if you're channeling.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
It's just
How about you, Sandy? Any last thoughts?
Just that I concur that I've heard that channeling is very exhausting. And so the fact that you've done it we all appreciate it.
So I want to leave you with this. And I draw this from Julie Bichelle, Chad Gozer, and Mark Bacozzi. And I draw this from the article. Now, this is the article, okay? And you get the idea of these long titles these people use, because they're scientists. The possible effects on bereavement of assisted after-death communication during readings with psychic mediums. A continuing bonds perspective. And this comes from the journal Omega, Journal of Death and Dying. And she writes, or they write, contemporary research using proper protocols has indicated that certain mediums provide accurate and specific information. They also determined that those who regularly communicate do not suffer from delusions.
How nice of them to say that.
Well, one of the main things is people say this is crap. Well,
my whole family does.
science scientists have been exploring this from the very beginning. And all this does is this echoes what, and I apologize, I don't know if it was Lodge or Crooks that said this. I want to say it was Crooks, that each medium has specific protocols or a specific method of doing the work. And they all may receive differently. There be different formats and everything, but the experience of each one is individualized. And I also want to tell you that spiritualism is experiential. And I want to thank you all for sharing your thoughts, your words, and everything. And thank you for allowing me to conduct you through this and to share this.